I know that you've all been prepared for this, but I thought I'd just remind you just the same.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
I want to buy some radio ad time.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
We got Carmack in the back. This is Invasion of the Darkseid. Let's get to it, motherfuckers. All right, Noel, we're back for another episode, another crossover episode. Last time we talked about was the Glass Trilogy, and this time we'll go look at the Blade Trilogy. We spoke about superhero franchises that kind of cross the line or tread the line or whatever between the horror genre and the
Blade's
superhero
an excellent
genre.
example of that.
And Blade, one of the forebears of the superhero genre.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, before X-Men, before you had your Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire.
Before we're in the fourth fucking phase of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, exactly. Like without Blade, you don't he's one of one of the only R-rated superhero movies as well. And
it came out in '98. But everyone talks about Deadpool kind of pushing the envelope and showing that it can be profitable to make a film. This and just for kids, that can be quite violent. But fucking Blade, Blade's opening 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's just
iconic.
A nightclub filled with blood, pretty much. We see it from.
It rains blood just before the shit goes down. It's just absolutely iconic.
Yeah, and what I was going to say to you was that, literally, it showed to people that superhero movies can not only be profitable, but you can be expansive in the genres you explore, the areas, in terms of demographic that you explore. You can have an R-rated Blade movie that turns a massive profit, and then you can have a sequel that follows up. Because of all three Blade movies, the only one that wasn't rated 18 was the only one that's considered terrible. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes, when you realize that I can operate in this space with a superhero franchise, and then what's the whole problem with Deadpool? Why is there no Deadpool movie on the slate now for Marvel? It's because they want to know whether we make him 18 rated movie or do we make him PG-13.
I think to be fair to all the people that said the third one was awful, they'd seen it.
Yeah. That's when people say about the Halloween Kills thing, they're people giving out about Halloween Kills and 50 million opening weekend. Yeah, well, people have to go see the movie to form their opinion. So, box office receipts is not always the...
And it is.
What we said about Michael
I've
Bay,
learned about myself lately. I'm way too influenced by stuff like that.
No, but I mean, if a movie makes 100 million, does not make it a good movie. It just makes it...
Does it fuck?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yesterday we were talking about Michael... we weren't talking about Michael Bay. Sorry, we were talking about the Glass Trilogy. We touched upon it, in conversation, and you were talking about his box office receipts are fantastic.
Oh, of course. Well, his movies are trash.
His movies are fucking garbage.
Yeah.
And you talk about bombs the Shawshank Redemption, rightfully considered one of the best films of all time.
Yeah.
Box office absolute bomb. So it's not the be all and end all. It's not what we should consider everything on. Yeah. 100% agree.
Yeah, because as when I say to people, if you make 50 million, a lot of people went to see it, but it doesn't mean a lot of people went to and enjoyed it.
No.
And it's a big difference. When you look at a Blade, though, I think you have to understand. It's remember I said to you something before when we spoke about Candyman. You have to understand the franchise you're operating in. It's something I'm going to speak a bit more about when we talk about the Halloween Kills new timeline. Is because the Halloween new timeline, because Michael Myers becomes Jason Voorhees in the new one. It's insane. This guy's unstoppable.
He ascends, as I've seen in the trailer.
So fucking stupid. And I just think when you look at Blade 1 and Blade 2, and it's so odd, see someone David S. Goyer, who's so ingrained in the franchise. He wrote part 1. He at least Crow wrote part 2. I think he actually wrote part 2. Guillermo del Toro directed it. But to see what he did, if I'm so ingrained in a franchise, why the fuck would I be so happy to change the tone of that franchise? I wrote part 1, Stephen Orrington directs it. I write part 2, Guillermo del Toro fucking makes a masterpiece in my opinion. And in part 3, I'm the guy who writes and directs this movie. So I should look at the franchise and go, has to be a hard 18, has to be filled on gore, because I'm in the third act now. I have to give the fans what they expected. So you know what I mean? As you said, the opening scene in Blade 1 is a fucking nightclub. It's like a slaughterhouse, and all the blood comes from a sprinkler system. Everyone's covered in blood. Blade fucking comes in, it's Daywalker, and he starts fucking wiping people out, wiping vampires out. he set the tone for the trilogy from there on out. Part 2 is like even more gorish. You go to the House of Pain when Blade links up with the Blood Pack. Remember, Damaskino sends the Blood Pack with him. They go to the House of Pain, and pretty much you have people like Salo. It's like S&M to the nth degree. Like it's like people getting their skin peeled off and me hooks and putting them because they're vampires or familiars. Like that's your template. Don't give me this fucking schlock in Part 3 that's just another generic fucking action movie.
Everything
you know
about
what I mean?
Part 3 was terrible. We're going to talk about this as kind of one big project. And again, in one way we should go chronological, but you've touched on it and you've started something. Like the advertisement for iTunes. It was like, she's making a playlist and it's really, really easy and convenient to throw it together. Fuck Apple. Yeah. And also no, you're going up against guys that were supposed to be, from what I understood, able to dodge bullets.
Yeah.
With a bow and arrow. At least you could fucking do is have your wits about you. Yeah. Don't isolate a sense.
Like listen to music before you fight.
Yeah.
To amp yourself up.
Amp yourself up.
Yeah, like the way soldiers
Like imagine if a footballer went out and just said, I'm going to listen to my jams. That's going to help me. He's like, he's behind you. He's coming in for a tackle. He's coming in for a horrible tackle.
It's like, why didn't you hear me? I was like, there was a real heavy bass beat here. And it was just like, dude, I was deep in my jam. You know what I mean? Like,
you know why I didn't hear you? Is your name Drake?
Yeah.
That's why I didn't hear you. You know?
It's Drake's the only one who speaks to me.
Fucking stupid. It was, and you know what? It just had none of the spark.
Yeah.
There was something about the first two where they felt like they belonged to each other. And the third one just felt...
The first one to me felt like a perfect example of a 1990s modern vampire tale action movie. But it was nice and dark. The special effects were terrible with the manga later on and stuff like that. But or the Magra. But Part 2 to me felt like, of course, you get Guillermo del Toro to come in, he's going to make a fucking masterpiece. It's what he does. Yeah. The man's a genius, right? And if we ever do Guillermo del Toro, I'm going to be just fanboying. I fucking love his work, right? But I love the way his Thomas Kretschmann, who played Damaskinos, it was like Nosferatu. It was like, I love the way Guillermo del Toro is like, you want me to make a modern vampire movie? Cool. But I'm not going to forget about the lineage, the story, the style, the gothic nature of what Dracula is, the lore, the vampire lore.
And I'm not making a film that's already been made.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, and you can
Bram Stoker's Dracula was already out there since yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you could tell that Guillermo del Toro wanted to come back, and I don't know what happened with the Blade trilogy, because if you look at the strain, like a lot of similar story beats that come from what was being built in Blade 2 end up in the strain. Even
loved Blade 2.
Yeah, like the design of the Reaper is very similar to the Strigoi.
Love the Reapers, yeah. I thought they were cool. Again, I thought it was cool to have an evolutionary fucking ascendant of the normal vampires.
Something we spoke about before is that we both believe the Blade trilogy is actually in the wrong order.
Yes.
And my opinion is that I think it should have been Blade 2 first, as in the superior vampire, Blade 3 second, as in Dracula, the first vampire, and then Blade 1 third, as in La Magra, the blood god.
And in my opinion was that we should have started with the original vampire, the big baddie, and then an ascended vampire, and then a thing. And there's an argument for both of our positions, but I think that undeniably they went about it the wrong way.
Oh yeah, 100%. And which is odd, because as I said, it's the same writer throughout the entire trilogy.
I don't know what to tell you about that.
David S.
I don't know what to say about
it's kind of like sometimes writers should just be writers and not directors, because like if I've seen the cutscenes from Blade 1. So in Blade 1, one of the ideas was to have a blood bank.
Yes.
Where human beings were being mass stalked to be
kept alive and all that kind of shit.
Which we saw in Blade Trinity.
I've seen a lot of these as well. And the alternate ending and all that.
Exactly.
Kind of.
That didn't make the cut for Blade 1, and that's a David S. Goyer idea that Stephen Norrington obviously reined him in and said, nah, it doesn't work. And David S. Goyer now being the writer and director. Nobody
he gets to know what he wants. As you should. As is what is afforded you.
Well, I think when you're the main creative force behind a project, if somebody else is not reining you in, it's your duty to rein yourself in.
Yes.
There's I'm no top level whatever, but like anytime I write, sometimes you got to understand what's not working. You know what I mean? And I have literally lost days of work by going back into projects and saying, nah, that doesn't work. And you're just going to have to slap yourself in the hand and go, oh boy, you wasted your time. Now let's get to it. But sometimes if an idea, and if you have another creator that's saying to you, that idea didn't work the first time, why revisit it? You know what I mean? That's what I didn't understand about Blade Trinity. And sometimes the whole movie felt like that. It was like the way he was probably reined in by Guillermo del Toro or Stephen Norrington in the first two didn't occur in the third one. And that's why we have Ryan Reynolds just fucking hamming it up the whole way through the movie, telling one shitty joke after one shitty
Really
joke.
bad.
Jessica Biel just posing the whole way through the movie.
Yeah.
We get it. You're good looking and you think you're funny. We get it, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't make it a good movie. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
Jesus, it doesn't.
Like,
Everything about the third one was bad.
like, look at the third one. It's like everything tries to be so stylized. The third one to me felt like it was trying to be a sequel to the first one. So that tells me Guillermo del Toro had a big say in the style and the tone of the second one. So like I'd say, like, if you look at part one and part three, they look more similar in tone than part two. Because part two stands, you know what I mean? Part two is set in Europe. It's like very gothic. You're going into the lore of the vampire, and it's very gritty. It's very grotesque, and you're actually seeing what this world would look like. You know what I mean? Agreed. So I think part three tried to restylize part one, and maybe David S. Goyer didn't like the storytelling style of Guillermo del Toro. But I think when you got someone like a Guillermo del Toro, they should have done everything they possibly could to get him back for part three. And I know it's not their fault. He went and wanted to work on Hellboy instead. And he did 2 Hellboy movies that were fucking awesome. In my opinion, Golden Army, not as good as the first one. But I just think that when you have, even if I'm, like, look, if someone comes to me and go, I want you to come in and write and direct a third part of this trilogy, I'd go and I'd examine the first 2 and I go, okay, here's the tone. Part 1 had this tone and then evolved into this tone for part 2. So what we're going to have to do is either hybridize the tones or we're going to just have to continue on with the tone from part 2 because that was the most recent movie. And the fact that part 2 ends in Europe, why not have it that Blade's going?
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, and staying in Europe.
That Russia, comrade, blah, 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 whatever.
You know what I mean? And he kills the guy in London, the Russian dude. Can't remember his fucking name, but the guy from the start, Race or something, I think his name is. The motorcyclist, the vampire. And I remember the girl's life. Well, last time I checked the war. So you remember that guy? Like, you didn't think I forgot about you, did you?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, the first Blade was so...
My smoothie's frozen.
Your smoothie's frozen.
Yeah.
But the first Blade really it was a great action hero movie.
Yeah.
It was just pure popcorn entertainment. And it had the stupidest line I've ever heard in my life. I love it every time I see it. I'm really going to enjoy this now. Is, you know, the blonde one that was Deacon Frost's girlfriend.
Yeah.
She goes to kill the I can't think of her name from the first movie. Karen.
The doctor, the hematologist.
And she sprays garlic or silver, whatever it was.
It's and silver nitrate mixed with garlic essence or some shit.
She sprays
like
it
that,
right into her mouth and kills her. But like, I was like, what kind of last words were, I'm really going to enjoy this now?
I never understood. We need the blood of the 12. And the blood of the Daywalker. That's very important. That's what the prophecy said. To get the Magret to come out. Yeah?
Yeah.
They killed someone right before the fucking ceremony.
Yeah. Quite.
So, did they even need 12 people?
I don't know.
You know what I mean, though? Like, because they killed that dude right before. Remember, like, he fucking, like...
they drag him out to the sun. Yeah.
No, the guy when they're all standing around. Do you remember they fucking kill him with Blade's sword or something?
Oh, yeah, that's right. He just
you know what I mean? Right before the ceremony.
I think you just needed 12 of the OGs.
Yeah, but they only had 11.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, yeah.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, of course, the film was popcorn entertainment.
Yeah, but Blade 1 is a good movie, though.
Blade 1 is a good movie.
Yeah, except...
Excellent opening. Some excellent set pieces.
That fucking sunblock, though.
Yeah, exactly. Just put on... Like, it'll kill you instantaneously unless you're wearing Factor 500.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, by the way, this immortal life, this great gift of superhuman strength is attached to a lust for human blood. And you'll never be able to stand in sunlight again unless
Factor 500.
You know what I mean? I was just like, oh, really?
And even then, if you stay out too long, it'll get uncomfortable.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I like if someone says to me, a vampire puts a blanket around him and it's not directly touching his skin, I'm golden. Someone says, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Put a helmet on, like they did. Remember they closed the helmet right before they killed the other vampire. Remember they pull his teeth and then I can't remember that dude's name. But they kill him. And they wear like a helmet
because they're not exposed.
Gear. Exactly, I can buy that.
The same way if you were standing inside a house with closed window, you are not exposed. Because it's not like vampires die if the sun is out. Yeah. They die if they're exposed to it.
Direct sunlight.
Yeah, direct sunlight.
Which I assume Factor 500 does not protect you against.
No, I don't think so. It's on the bottle.
Yeah.
Do not use a vampire.
Contains mostly garlic extract. That'd be amazing. That would
fucking
what's the secret ingredient to this?
Shorter film. But yeah, no, the first one was fucking cool, especially when you consider there wasn't that much superhero films around it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It was so entertaining.
Yeah, and I loved it too because I'd become exposed to Blade through the Spider-Man animated series. So I knew who Blade was as well.
Yeah.
So, like, you know what I mean? And it's so strange when you look at, like, the bevy of superhero characters. And don't let me say that Blade is the first one, because we had Superman, we had Batman, 80s, early 90s, Batman going back to
Spawn, just the year before.
Or was it the year before? Like,
97, I think.
So, like, literally, like, so if you want to look at the resurgence of superheroes, we owe a lot to actually characters of color.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, which you can see why people are annoyed when characters are recast when they've got such a rich vein of characters of color that already exist. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, like when you look back though, like, you got a Spawn, you got a Blade. Like, and Spawn didn't do amazing at the box office, but it showed that you can make an R-rated superhero movie and people will come to see it.
They will,
and maybe just because Todd McFarlane's character might not have been as well known as Blade at the time, that maybe they were just like, we can go this route again with another character. And then, like, you know, because that's what I had to laugh like when people were like I love Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, when people were lauding Black Panther for this landmark moment. I'm like, have you never seen Spawn?
Yeah.
Blade had a trilogy before Black Panther came out.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
It's like, where's the landmark moment? Because
and Wesley Snipes was
and Michael J. Williams.
Excellent casting.
Yeah.
Wasn't he fantastic?
Like
the cheeky smiles,
Mahershala
the
Ali
seriousness.
Such an uphill task.
Yeah.
Because, like, Wesley Snipes is Blade for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even bother looking at the TV series.
No, either.
I'm like, Wesley Snipes not in it, so where's Blade? Like, it's the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, it was like the Robert Downey Jr. Or something, just such a perfectly cast character.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the first one where he takes out the double-edged kind of blade twisted at the ends and he throws it, and then it's just him catching it again.
Do you remember
the vampires all die? I just thought it was.
Do you remember Donal Logue describing that later on when they got away from him, because he's like talking to Deacon Frost, like, he's got like a blade, and he was like, he threw it, and I was like,
his death was kind of funny as well. Blade seemed to have some sort of wire in his belt, and he goes, "I'm coming for you, Blade. I'm coming, Garrot." Yeah, and he just completely instantaneously decapitated. And he was after like chopping his arm off and burning him. And all this
I thought it was hilarious though, because they're like, the blade itself, the sword he carries around him, titanium acid etched.
Was that what it was?
Acid edged. That's what he said. And I'm like, first of all, titanium does not harm vampires.
No.
Because their weakness is silver.
Decapitation hurts them, to be fair, but yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but he stabs them in the heart and they break the dust because of the sword.
Yeah, I thought it was silver or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, just call it silver.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or like a titanium silver hybrid, or a titanium blade with a silver edge, or something like that.
It had so many awesome scenes that would have been impossible not to like it.
Yeah.
Even if you could pick holes in the story or whatever.
Especially as you used to have very little to compare it against at the time.
Exactly, yeah. That's it. And I even loved whatever those capsules were that he was throwing into people and they would just explode.
That's the Yoshi. It was an anticoagulant.
An anticoagulant. That's exactly right. Yeah, and it's how he takes out Frost. And Deacon Frost, excellently cast.
Yeah, Stephen Dorff,
excellent.
It's such a slime bag in it.
Such a slime bag.
Yeah, plays the part brilliantly.
Exactly. Yeah. He plays the part absolutely brilliantly. Like the first film I watched 8 times or something, because when I came out, I was just like, this film was like tailor-made.
I've seen it dozens of times. Like, I own it on DVD and everything. I've seen it dozens of times.
It's just such a good film.
Like, it's a landmark moment for someone like me. I was like 12 or 13 when it came out to see an R-rated superhero movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Same, I even remember, God, I can't think of the name of the BBC presenter. But Wesley Snipes was doing the circuit and he was in England.
Wasn't Michael Parkinson, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was bald guy with hair on either side. I can't think of his name. But anyway, he was...
John McBalderson.
John McBalderson. Exactly right. But he was on it and he was said, right, and he was just talking about it was cool and how he got like jacked for it and how, and how excited he was for the role. And Wesley Snipes' very charming character.
Yeah.
And then it just showed a scene, and it was a scene where he throws the Karen from one rooftop to the other.
Yeah.
And then he jumps it. And I was just like, whoa. So you have to understand, there was nothing. Now we're so spoiled.
Yeah.
And then, I was like, God, it's going to be like this proper superhero film, because Batman wasn't, and Superman was sold the other way. Like Superman was God tier.
Yeah.
Something in between Batman and Superman. And I was just going, oh my God, I couldn't wait for this film to come out. When I went to see it, I was giddy. Yeah. I was a kid and I was just giddy watching it. I absolutely loved
Blade
it.
2 is like the second R-rated movie I think I ever saw in the cinema.
Yeah, probably.
Like, first one.
I don't know, man.
Scary Movie was my first
older,
one. I think.
So maybe it was my third.
Did the Scary
or
Movie come up before Blade 2?
Scream, you mean?
No, Scary Movie.
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah, I think it came out like the year or two after.
And then you go into the second one again, strong opening, but in a more like kind of like visceral way.
Yeah.
Where he's at a blood bank in the Czech Republic,
Yeah.
And
Vampire.
Yeah,
I love that.
Vampires.
Yeah, what an opening scene.
Yeah, it's like where he's screaming in pain, and then he just starts to
They're
laugh.
like, good news for us, bad news for you.
Yeah. And he just tears.
You got a rare
something.
phenotype. I've seen
And it
these
was
movies
great.
a lot.
He was such a good contemporary for Blade. He could fight Blade on Blade's level. He was such a martial artist and stuff like that.
Oh man, he was, as you said, he's the improved vampire.
He's the improved vampire.
The Reaper strain. Like,
a vampire that feeds on vampires and everything. It was so
man.
cool. I mean, what was Do You Blush? Ron
Ron
Perlman. What were they called?
The Blood Pack.
The Blood Pack.
Yeah. He was Reinhard.
Yeah, he was Reinhard.
I've seen these movies a lot.
Oh my God.
Especially the first two. I love part 2.
Again, it was just so cool to have him like teamed up with other vampires for a common goal.
Danny Yen was wasting this movie though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was absolutely wasted. But then he hadn't had his landmark moment. He hadn't had his landmark moment yet. But
your man that played Chupa was very good as well. Yeah, the guy that was constantly trying to kill Whistler the whole way through.
Yeah.
His name was Priest. Don't want me to carve his name on your chest. Chupa, calm down. He was outside. You were inside.
Where, like, so you know what? Where he has a little torch like on the top of the gun, and it's like if he puts a lens on it, you can kill vampires with.
No, it's if you put the lens on it, you can't kill vampires.
Yeah.
It's because you're blocking the UV light.
Yeah,
because you run it through a different spectrum, you turn it into white light.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So.
And I was thinking like it's just a lens.
Exactly.
A lens, you know. But I don't know.
Some of us can't see.
I thought
the
they
dark.
were both such explosively entertaining. The first two were such explosively entertaining films, and the third film had a lot of scenes where it was supposed to be entertaining, but it all just felt, for starters, the hue. And I know this is a weird thing to pick, but it was a brighter film.
Yeah.
Do you ever notice like DC films we've seen lately? It's like they're shot to a darker camera lens.
Yeah.
Everything has like an off gold, off brown, off yellow.
Sure, the
off beige
apocalyptic
kind
filter
of,
on. Yeah.
And the third one just seemed like it was very fluorescent.
Yeah.
To see like Blade takes on Drake, and it's like, Blade, are you ready to die?
Yeah.
And
everybody
it's
wearing
very
leather
lit
pants.
up or something. It didn't have any of the shadow.
I'm just going to say to you, Noel, right? If I'm ever gifted with superhuman abilities, I can promise you, if I'm fighting somebody that also has superhuman abilities, last thing I'll wear, leather pants.
Yeah.
Why am I going to restrict my movement by wearing leather pants?
Yeah.
Jessica Biel is just like a leather pants wearing motherfucker.
Headphone leather pants wearing.
Yeah, it's like, I get it. You're super hot, but can you act, please?
Yeah.
Can you just like give your character some sort of like meat? Because
I'm going to say something very,
mean?
very controversial. She's not the world's best actress.
No way.
No. As long as Kaylee Cacao walks this fucking earth.
She's got range. Remember she played the ditzy blonde in that one show? It's in Perus. No, it was Big Bang Theory. No, wait. That new one she's in. What's that? Yeah, wait, she just played Ditzy Blonde?
She plays Ditzy Blonde.
No, that's what it is. I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, but I just thought Jessica Biel was so poor.
Yeah.
Such a poor casting, such a Whistler's daughter.
Yeah, Abigail Whistler.
Fucking shoved in there for no fucking reason. And she had like this weird, her bow could do this weird laser fucking
thing. No, that wasn't her bow later on. That was a different weapon.
I don't care.
Sonar.
You know what? I don't want to be corrected because I don't fucking care. And I know that's exactly the job I'm here to do is to
that's
get the
David S. Goyer,
and
man.
I'm sorry, but I've checked out.
Another way you're like, I don't want to be corrected here. That's David S. Goyer and the way he made that movie. They're just like, I don't want to be corrected here.
And then
I checked out.
Oh, and then he comes on and Deacon Frost is there, but we killed Deacon Frost. I don't want to be corrected here.
I'd rather not be corrected.
Yeah. But I don't know. It felt jumbled together. He had Triple H. He had fucking. Yeah. He had a dog vampire.
Posey,
a little fucking poodle vampire.
Pomeranian
vampire.
Yeah.
So unnecessary.
No, Pomeranian Reaper.
Fine, you're right as well. It was a Pomeranian Reaper, and you just fuck off. Just
all
all
Reaper,
of it.
if you
like
will.
Fuck off forever with all of it.
Yeah, and Doberman. It was like something that you'd see in like a shitty Resident Evil movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you know what? It would be like something you'd see in a scary movie of Blade.
Mm.
Like, if you weren't to take the piss out of it, have a Pomeranian Reaper. It's not adorable. It's not funny. It's not making light of something that was extremely cool in the film that preceded it. Make light of it. Because that's what it was. People were getting stabbed to death and scream, and it was human beings being murdered. Second one made it fun.
Yeah.
Second one took the piss out of it. This was like it was taking the piss out of the other films. At times, it was comical. Again, like the fucking, you want listening to tunes in leather pants. Comical.
Yeah, like the whole way through, like, oh, I can't see around corners, I can, or I can't shoot around corners, I can. Who gives a fuck? But like one thing I would say about the trilogy is the differences between a Blade 2, and a Blade Trinity is a Blade has got no comparison. It's like
that's true.
Right, Blade 2, no comparison. Like something we talked about, and I'm not sure I think it was in the Spider-Man 2 episode, we talked about the pinnacle of sequels and superhero movies. And looking back at Blade 2 compared to a Spider-Man 2, compared to an X-Men 2, I think Blade 2 is probably a better movie than both of those films, in my opinion. I think it captures the horror genre perfectly. It captures a grounded superhero story perfectly. It tells a tortured tale of Outcast, even though he unfortunately kind of tells the similar story in Hellboy Golden Army, where you have an outcast who's trying to convince the other outcast that you should not defend these people. You should come with me because we're actually more like, we're not so different, you and I, as Agent Smith would say in The Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I think there's sort of similarities in those stories. And I actually wrote an article a while back comparing those two stories because I thought I saw a lot of similarities. Back in the day, it's what I did. Sometimes they actually call me.
A lot of nicknames, this man.
It's what I am. The man of many monikers.
Like Dell when he's hot. Only pulls on horses. And she said to me on her deathbed.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm like Kevin Crumb from Division. You know that movie? I got many monikers. But no, I just think like if you look at Blade 2, you look at Blade 1, Blade Trinity, that Blade 1 and Blade 2 did not try to copy any other superhero movies.
No.
But Blade Trinity, I mean, it seems that I've tried to copy its contemporaries. Like, I want to look, I'm not sure what exactly when it came out, I'll check in a sec, but I think its contemporaries would have been something like a Resident Evil 1 with Mila Jovovich, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Well, also the guy just does not know how to make a good movie.
No.
Like maybe Event Horizon. That's probably his best movie.
Grant him that.
Yeah, I'll grant him that, because when I rewatched that recently, even though that movie's bonkers, I loved it. I loved it. It was one of my favorite.
I'll grant him that. We watched it recently. Excellent movie.
Yeah.
Went to it in the cinema.
Yeah.
Great film.
And like, unfortunately for him, it was probably slightly ahead of its time in terms of gore, because we know there's a lot of footage lost. We spoke about it on Return to Critics with Beige and Eli, that there was footage there from Event Horizon, stored it in a Romanian salt mine. Guess what? It didn't age well.
Yeah.
So there was no special features. And see me, the orgy scene was much more gory. So like, I give him that in that story, like, you know, not to get too sidetracked, but that story was probably a little bit ahead of its time.
Yeah.
In terms of the gore, because it would be more acceptable 10 years on after having Saw and Hostel and all these films that came out in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, of course. Everything's based on where you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you have to play something in its time.
Yeah, and
you know, it's why Jason and Argonauts is actually a great film.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a detriment, not to the director's fault, but sometimes it's a detriment too because of the director. And you look at Blade 1, Blade 2, unique in the storytelling style. Blade Trinity looked at its contemporaries and brightened it up. It way more jokes. Like all the jokes in the first two movies come from dry remarks from the antagonist, or Blade just making kind of funny remarks, or Whistler the odd time. But like in Blade Trinity, it's Ryan Reynolds, ba 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 ba. I'm Ryan Reynolds, yeah, we get it, Ryan. You've been doing it for about 20 years now.
Yeah.
All you do is tell jokes.
God.
Once again,
Ryan Reynolds wears on me, man.
Like I said to Jessica Biel there a minute ago, can you please just act now?
Yeah.
Because dude, you get it. We get it. You're cool looking and sometimes funny, but can you act too?
Yeah. It wouldn't hurt, like.
You know what I mean? Like,
it wouldn't take from the film if you just got into it.
Yeah.
Exactly. There was no...
But
that was it. It had no... You know, like, there was... If La Magra was loose upon the world, we'd all die. There was stakes. The second one had stakes. The Reapers were so self-destructive that they would just, like...
They're like crack
plague.
addicts.
Yeah. And the third one, I know, it was like, you know, again, the first vampire's back and all this kind of shit, but it just felt silly. It just felt silly.
Too overtly stylized.
Yeah. Overtly stylized and tried to be like...
To me, do you know what?
Product placement was completely out of control.
Man, when I was watching it earlier today, I finished the third one today, and I was like, the talk came on to me. He's like, this actually just feels like a music video. This entire fucking movie just feels like a 2-hour long music video. It's like the trailer of the film. Like, I'm waiting for the beats to come.
Yeah.
All I'm seeing is action sequence joke. Where the story
that was all there was to see, man.
Yeah, and you look at part 2, you have the triumvirate of Damaskinos, his daughter Nisa, and in the outcast, Jared Novak. And is it Nomak or Novak? But,
Nomak.
Jared Nomak, and you have this beautiful fucking triangle, this power struggle. He was the outcast. He never felt loved, and he's like his father's greatest regret, and also his greatest achievement.
Yeah,
and Nisa,
layers.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, and Nisa, who literally would do anything for her father, who worships at his feet. And the part then when you have Damaskinos is talking to his lawyer, and he goes, they could die, would you sacrifice everyone, even your daughter? And he just walks away into a bloodbath, which is amazing. And he just goes, yes. even her. Like, you know what I mean? I just love that he's so maniacal. Like, you know what I mean? Like that he is an evil beyond imagining because he's been around for so long and he looks at the world so differently.
Yeah.
And look, and that's an action movie.
That's an action movie.
That's what Guillermo
an action movie with
does.
stakes. I mean, it had shadows. You know what I mean? It had a darkness to it.
Yeah.
The third one was just, again, it was fluorescent. It was like it all took place inside of a restaurant kitchen.
It's like, this is vampires. Why is this always daylight?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why are we having such a bright movie?
Yeah, and then, you know, that whole thing where they released, like, this silver phosphate into the air and all this kind of shit, and you're just like, I don't know. Eventually, I just stopped caring. Eventually, it got a bit like Go-Go Gadget.
Yeah.
They all had all these kind of different technological means, and Blade just felt, I was born ready, motherfucker.
Yeah, what I loved about the first one was, like, we used to have, like, when we were younger, we used to go party a lot, go to house parties, and then you go on the break a day, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what part one felt like to me, the raver lifestyle, but with vampires.
Yes.
You know, that kind of way,
100%.
that's what it felt like to
100%.
me. Like, look at Deacon Frost, even when he's outside, his skin's all pasty.
Yeah.
It's like if you've been up all night drinking, and you go outside and your skin's all pasty and shit, you haven't slept, you're doing the walk of shame. And that's what he kind of looked like to me. He looked like a raver, and he never really belonged in the sunlight because his whole life occurred after dark.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I loved about part one. It captured that kind of rave culture of the late 90s, you know?
Yep.
And part two was just... Excuse me. Part two was all really, really dark. It was gothic. It was really viscous and gory and grotesque, and it captured the lore of the vampire. Like, look at Damaskino, something I touched on earlier. He's a real Nosferatu type character. Like, the look of him, that whitened skin, the veiny texture, you know, everything looks like it's nearly made out of wax. Like, he bathes in blood. Like, he is the vampire lore to the nth degree. And then you have, I'm saying that way too much today, but like... He's got that as one side, and then you got the Reaper. It's kind of like when you look at the strain, the Strigoi is the vampire nullified or reduced down to its the virus. It's just a pathogen taking on humanoid form.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. Like, and if you look at the Reaper, and that's kind of what it is. It's, you take away the seductive nature. We did Interview the Vampire recently. You take away the beauty of a Brad Pitt, the charisma of a Tom Cruise. You take away the seductive lore, the Anne Rice,
Laura again.
yeah, you know what I mean. Under the Tror, sorry.
Said Laura again.
No, I mean, I know I was
I'm going to put up a bucket there.
No, a minute ago I said nth degree like 5 times today. Like,
yeah.
But
we know 200 words.
Yeah, but you take away all that romanticism of the vampires.
No, they did, yeah.
And you boil it down to its bare minimum.
Yeah.
And you got a Reaper.
Yeah.
You got a Strigoi. And that's what I loved about Blade 2, that it took the lore, it took away all this romantic nature. Even though you got a beautiful woman like Nisa, or you got, I think her name is Valerie, or what was her name? But you know, the girl with the red hair, Lighthammer's kind of woman. But like, he got that. You still have the beauty with the beautiful looking characters or something, but he never forgot exactly what they were. That they were a pathogen come to life, and their worst version of themselves. It's kind of like Dorian Gray never wanted to look at that painting for fear of rotting in an instant.
Yeah.
That the Strigoi, in a sense, in the terms of the strain, or the Reaper, in the sense of terms of Blade 2, was the perfect mirror image that you did not want to see of yourself. So when you look at a vampire, you take away their beauty, their immortality, their super strength, and at the end of the day, they're just like a walking pathogen. And all they want to do is proliferate, spread. And that's all they want to do. And that's what I love about Blade 2, is that it boils down the vampire to its most grotesque, vicious, primal kind of thing, like a version of itself. And what Blade Trinity tried to do was, it tried to do something similar by bringing back the first vampire played by Dominic Purcell from Prison Break and Legends of Tomorrow, the Arrowverse and all that. But they stylized it in the wrong way.
It was. I actually thought the third one was so bad that it cheapened the first two. Because all of that stuff that was so cool, it felt like, because it was supposed to exist in the same world, it took it away from like all of that stuff that you just said.
Yeah,
it just took it and cheapened it.
Yeah,
true.
It took the shine off it.
Took the shine,
like
but it was like a pantomime ending.
Because when you want to go back and look at that trilogy, you know you're going to end up with Blade Trinity.
You know you're going to.
You want to go back and look at Spider-Man 3, the Spider-Man trilogy that Tobey Maguire starred in, directed by Sam Raimi.
You end up in the third one as well.
3.
Yeah,
and
it does.
And that's the problem with even the Chris Nolan Batman franchise. Even though Dark Knight Rises is a far superior movie to a Spider-Man 3 or a Blade Trinity, it's still not in the same masterpiece level that Batman Begins was and The Dark Knight was.
No.
Because
he overachieved maybe.
Overextended himself. And he was very unfortunate Heath Ledger's passing, because I'm sure the Joker would have reappeared in the trilogy.
He survived the second film.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because exactly, so he was going to leave him there. But before we head to the break, I just think when you look at the Blade trilogy, the part 1 and 2 try to be unique and they achieved it.
Yes.
Whereas part 3 tried to copy or emulate its contemporaries and achieved it, but to a negative effect. You know what I mean? And I think that's the major difference between the 3 movies.
Blade 3 can suck my balls, man. It was a terrible movie.
It's a bog gargling thunder cunt, if you ask me. So we get the fuck out of here for the break, and then we come back, and I want to just talk about villains with you, motherfucker. I want to compare the 3 movie villains, and we just kind of run through the last half an hour of the show and get the fuck out of here. So, all right, motherfuckers, this is Invasion of the Darkseid, and we'll see you after the break. And now, word from our sponsors.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horathon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Welcome back from the break. This is Invasion of the Darkseid. Noel, in the first half we were talking about the Blade trilogy, and now we're back again to talk about the Blade trilogy. But this time, we broke down what made the strengths of Blade 1 and Blade 2 and the inadequacies of Blade Trinity. But I want to talk to you now, because direct comparison of the 3 of them, like in any good superhero thing, like what we love to do on Darkseid the Moon, is compare villains. And I mentioned before we went to the break, I want to talk villains with you, and so the main antagonists of the Blade trilogy are Stephen Dorff playing Deacon Frost.
Yes.
Unexpectedly so, Luke Goss doing an amazing role as Jared Nomak, and then we have Dominic Purcell playing Drake, or Dracula, or whatever the fuck. So who would you say was your favorite villain from the 3? Who was the weakest, and what did you kind of enjoy about the portrayals, and who surprised you the most?
And I think my favourite would have to be Deacon Frost. There was something so smarmy about him. Like that Joffrey or whatever you have. It's not just a guy that's bad. It's a guy that's just skin-crawlingly smug and
the kind of guy you'd see at the end of end of a nightclub going home with like a 16-year-old girl or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
There was something so...
And that same 16-year-old that turned me down.
And hence why I was upset.
That's why I was watching her.
But absolutely loved Deacon Frost. Loved to hate him.
Yeah.
Like Nomak actually struck quite a sympathetic character in one way.
Yeah.
Drake wasn't what was wrong with Trinity.
Yeah,
he wasn't. I didn't.
Very one-dimensional.
Very one-dimensional, but I don't think it could have been. It was a very one-dimensional movie. I really don't understand how you could become a very three-dimensional character within it.
Yeah, I suppose.
But I think if I was to rank them, I'd rank them in the order the films came out.
As in quality, or in terms
as
of
in quality of villain, I would have gone Deacon Frost. Loved them, smug, smarmy, cheesy, ambitious. The leader of a gang, and kind of just absolutely skin crawling. Nomak was just cool. He was ascended. Yeah. He was like the biggest threat to a bigger threat to vampires than Blade, which is a really interesting angle to go. Yeah. He had to be stopped, but he did strike a sympathetic character in his backstory, which was again had actual layers to it. And then of course Drake, like just like the trilogy itself does, it comes up short. Yeah.
In my opinion, my favorite was Jared Nomak,
and that's fair,
because the reason it is, I love villains that you can relate to. Look at a Killmonger, look at Joker in Dark Knight. I can relate to their methods, and to their motives. And I can understand when you look at Jared Nomak, even though he's a vicious killing machine, but he didn't create himself.
No.
He didn't make himself to be a Reaper. He didn't volunteer for some experiment. He wasn't born a vampire and decided to volunteer to become a Reaper. He was born a Reaper. and he hated himself as much as he hated his creators.
Yeah.
But before he wants to die, he has to kill the ones that created him.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful storytelling.
That's a great storytelling.
Yeah, it's like when Blade puts the bone through his bone encased heart, which I thought was genius.
Right through the side was that one opening that existed.
And when he says it's strange, it hurts no more, because he didn't want to exist.
Yeah.
He hated his own existence as much as he hated his creators. But as I mentioned a second ago, he was not willing to die until he seen Damaskinos dead, until he seen Nisa dead. As she said, end the bloodline. And that's what I loved about his character, that his motives were, he was kind of on a suicide mission, because like, I don't mind if I die as long as you die first. And that's what I loved about him. Yeah. So like, even when he was
that's
like,
a dangerous enemy.
Exactly, like, you know, and it's like, because he was like, Blade, I'm not going to run away from... Did the chair just break?
Just the arm kind of tore.
No, that's been like that for a while, I think. These chairs are flimsy as fuck. But what I loved about it was that he didn't really have a quarrel with Blade, but because Blade was standing in between him and his goals,
that's exactly it.
I'm going to kill you. Yeah. And that's what I loved about Nomak. Like, because like literally on the face value, he's a ruthless killing machine. That, like, as they said, he's a crack addict that he has to feed every few hours, not like a vampire. Feeds just sustain for days, maybe weeks. Like they're like more something akin to like an alligator. Or a crocodile. They can eat very like they'll starve, but very slowly.
Yeah.
Whereas a Reaper it'll burn right through you. That's the problem with the Reaper strain, and that's why it like literally they all lose their hair. All the vampires turn. They get the bifurcated lower jaw. All these kind of things is because it's a different strain of thing, and that's what I loved about Jared Nomak, that he's like. He had to give his need to feed because he had to stay alive to get his revenge.
To carry out his mission, yeah.
But I love the way he's constantly just trying to say to Blade is, I'm not your enemy. Like, he even says it to him, like the line we like to make fun of, but he says, like, is the friend of my enemy my friend?
Yeah.
Or is it my enemy? Because he's, like, surprised. Why is Blade here?
Yeah.
And I'm doing Blade a favour.
Yeah, I'm speeding up the mission here.
But he doesn't understand what Blade's role is. Blade's role is not just to protect humanity, but he's, like, there to keep the balance.
Yeah.
Blade can't kill every vampire, but he can stop vampires going running rampant and killing all of humanity. And that's the difference with the Reapers, and that's the way they sold it to Blade. Who do you think he's going to come after when he's done with us? Your beloved humans.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about it. And the only reason Blade's there is because if I have to protect humanity, which is supposed to be my destiny, then I'm going to have to team up with the vampires, because for right now, we got a shared goal, we got a shared enemy. And if you have an enemy that's cool enough, or not cool enough, sorry, that's good enough, and that's that's intimidating enough, that you have Blade team up with a group of vampires that were trained to hunt. And by the way, 2 years, not enough. They would have got murdered. They would have got slaughtered.
Would have been hilarious.
Like if part 3 should have been Blood Pack and Blade kills them in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I just thought, like, if you got a bad guy that's so imperious that you need to have 2 mortal enemies team up against him, and then he's like the superior, like a top level bad guy. Yeah. And that's what I loved about Jared Nomak, that he like, and once again though, you have the whole thing layered into him. He hated himself as much as they hate him, and it's like
he was a more nuanced. He was the most nuanced of them, if that's what you're going.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Deacon Frost just made my skin crawl, and I just love that in a villain.
Yeah, Deacon Frost was the perfect personification of the type of character he was supposed to play.
Yeah.
And in the same way Jared Nomak was, just Jared Nomak had a bit more layers to him. That's all it did.
Agreed, yeah.
Just like a better backstory or something, you know.
Two great bad guys.
Yeah.
2 great bad guys.
And let's not forget, Deacon Frost also ended up being the guy who created Blade as well. Like,
yes.
So that was kind of a cool little nugget of backstory there. Like,
that was the thing. Like, his impact on Blade is undeniably the biggest. He turned his mother.
Yeah. Great.
And he
created him.
He created him.
Yep.
So he was the reason he went down the path he went down, and all the pain and
what's
all
Blade's
the
real name? Eric, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think he has that on him, but like first films quite often have that the world building bad guy.
He's the
and again,
story.
when Drake showed up, he just kind of showed up.
Yeah.
He was just there because a film needs a bad guy.
Yeah, it's like Parker Posey and Triple H went down into they're in this funk uniforms. That's Samaria.
Some shit
So,
like that.
so because the creator of civilization.
Yeah.
So that's you're talking about the Persian Gulf, pretty much. I think it's not Iraq and Iran. That's the Persian Gulf, is it?
Yeah.
But like that's kind of interesting. But like, why do you take him out there and it's like, oh, by the way, this guy can walk in daylight. He doesn't know what a shirt is. He wears leather all the time. His balls must stink of sweat. Like, you know what I mean? It was just like
to walk in the daylight. And then
it was like an Abercrombie thing. Like, I just think they went the wrong direction. If you want to go back to the original vampire, don't have it that he has this beautiful look about him and he's this well-toned guy. Go the horrific route. That when he turns, the CGI version of him where he's like all like horns and shit like that. If he looked like that throughout the entire movie, that would have made sense to me. That would have he should be like a Skeletor with the hood up, hiding his hideous face and shit like that. A grotesque, like the master.
And he adjusted to the world so quickly that it was kind of fucking stupid. Motherfucker, I like that. You know, just fuck off. You've been like a millennia fucking hidden away. You don't know about the world. You don't have language and shit.
Yeah, like how does he speak English?
I think it's something got to do with like feeding on the vampires that came down to get him. I think he was like he's so coded to vampires.
That's so fucking dumb.
It's dumb, man. It's dumb. Everything about it's dumb.
Like I just think if you look at the three villains, that Deacon Frost, Stephen Dorff played that to perfection. Yeah. I'm trying to stay away from nth degree.
But Purcell wasn't a fault. He got a job and he did it. Yeah. And he did a decent job of it. It was a stupid character.
Yeah, I like Dominic Purcell. Like if you watch him in Legends of Tomorrow, like even though it's a silly show, he's good. He got a very dry wit about him.
Yeah, he's the flame. He's the
Mick McCrory, I think. It's like, and he's like but he's really dry in it. And in this, I don't know. I just think they thought it was like an Abercrombie ad or some shit. It's like they were just like modeling clothes constantly. It's like, and Ryan Reynolds is like, I don't care. I'm Mr. I don't care. Like I got the bullseye in the back of my armor. I wear hello fuck you or something shit like that. Like he was just so nice. Like it's like Ryan Reynolds. You can say he's a bit of a one trick pony, but he's charismatic and that's why he's so successful.
Yeah, he is, and he's got a great sense of humor. But Jesus.
But in this movie, it was so flat. It was like there was only one take. It was kind of like when you throw jokes out ad lib, a kind of sitcom, they do like several takes, maybe 20 something takes sometimes. And this was kind of like David S. Goyer was kind of like Ryan Reynolds tells a joke. It's like, fuck Ryan, that was good.
Yeah.
Go to gate, that's a wrap. Next scene. I'm like, Ryan Reynolds is like, are you sure about this?
Ryan Reynolds doesn't do 2 takes.
No, I think it would be the exact opposite. I think Ryan Reynolds is like, I need a few more takes. And the other dude's like, no, Ryan, pretty sure you made me laugh once.
Yeah, you made me laugh,
Yeah, and I am the everyman, I'm David S. Goyer.
Yeah, I'd like to wrap this shit up, to be honest with you. I was out last night.
Yeah, and to stray a little bit from villain talk, that in Blade Trilogy, during the production process, that Wesley Snipes was supposed to be a total asshole. Like a total asshole.
Really? Yeah.
Like with Shaw allegedly, so we don't get sued. But like he's saying he was a total asshole throughout the entire thing. All he did was smoke weed and late for his takes. Nearly all of the non-close-up shots are body doubles. He only did close-ups the entire movie. Like, and every other shot of him is a stand-in. So if you see any shot in Blade Trinity that's not a close-up of Wesley Snipes or him doing dialogue, it's all stand-in. So to give David S. Goyer some sort of leeway in terms of Blade Trinity, why it was so shit, when you have your central protagonist phoning it in.
Phoning it in, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's shit. No, fuck that.
Yeah, that's a big issue. But like, when you compare the villains, that's something he had control over. Dominic Purcell was an interesting casting, and I'm sure it was obviously because of Prison Break's success at the time.
That put him on the map.
Of course. Yeah, him and Wentworth Miller, who ended up both being in Legends of Tomorrow. Wentworth Miller's amazing in Legends of Tomorrow when he was in it as well. But like, I just think that if you look at the villains, that I think they just went in the wrong direction. I understand what he was going for. Like this is what Blade should have been, or this is what vampire should have been. I'm not sure, like because it's like this is the perfect version of a vampire, but I think what he should have went with the Demaskinos route. This is the most horrific version of what a vampire is.
Yeah,
and that's what Guillermo del Toro.
That's it. It should have been a disgusting, like ancient, primordial creature,
like the Master. And he wasn't.
Like, exactly.
Do you ever watch The Strain?
Like no, I only ever seen the first episode.
Yeah, check out The Strain because there's these characters called Ancients in it, and they're disgusting and they're old because they've been what's the word I'm looking for? The vessel or whatever they're in has been under the influence or has been
for so long.
The virus has rotted away everything that would remain human about the original vessel, pretty much. You know what I mean? So that's what I think the direction maybe they should have gone with Drake or Dracula. They should have leaned into the whole lore a bit instead of trying to modernize it and trying to say, "Oh fuck you, Lord." I doubt if he turns into mist, but shape shifting we're not 100% sure on. Like, if you think a person can shape shift, can they not like change their shape into mist? You know what I mean? Like, I just thought it was weird. Just like, this part of the lore is stupid, but we couldn't like this part of the lore, so that's
but that's it. That's
you know what I mean?
That's what the third film was so fucking joyless. You know, that it's so incoherent. The characters were so like
joyless.
zany instead of fucking, you know.
Yeah, just like Resident Evil, I'm trying to be cool shots. Let's look at Jessica Biel's ass and let her.
Like I'm Triple H. I'm a vampire and a tank of a man. Yeah. But I love my little Pomeranian and little Reaper
because he's got layers.
Yeah, because he's got.
And his name is like something Grimwood or some bullshit.
I don't care.
Jarko Grimwood. Like. Shittest name ever,
and it's supposed to be like in the higher, but he was like they were the higher echelons, even higher than Frost or any of Hazel or even the elders. This was like the highest echelons of what was left of the vampire, and we were just thinking it was so cheesy and play like billionaire playboys more so than something like really evil and there was no fear. Like not that it was a horror movie, but there was no fear in it.
Yeah, there was no fear. There was no feeling of horror in comparison to the first two.
Yeah,
the first one to me feels like a techno horror.
Yes,
and the
techno horror is nice.
And
like
the second one to me just feels like old school, like a modernized,
more gothic as well.
Like a modernized goth movie. Like you know what I mean, like. And that's what they set their tone in horror because when you're dealing with a subgenre such as the vampire, your background, where does the vampire come from? The fucking horror genre. So if you incorporate a vampire into your superhero genre, you're going to have to incorporate the subgenre he belongs to, which is the horror genre. And that's what the first two did. They had their completely different takes, but both of them achieved them quite well, except for, the special effects at the end of part one's atrocious. But, it's limited by its time. I'm limited by my technology.
Yeah.
But the third one, though, it just, like... I don't know, I just didn't, like, incorporate as, like, the horror into it at all. It tried to just make an action movie. Like, there's no horror elements in part 3, in Blade Trilogy. Like, remember in Blade 2, where Jared Nomak's like, it's like, he doesn't know where our facility is. He does now.
Yeah.
And then the alarm starts going off.
Like, it had intensity, And then the third film never had that. Because they were always trying to set it up with product placement and shit.
Exactly,
like that.
you know what I mean? Like, but the scene in Blade 2 where they open up after Jared Nomak comes into the facility, and he's like, the camera pans up and it's like blood. And then you see legs of people, and then you see bodies of people, and then it's just a pile of people, and Jared Nomak's at the top feeding on the latest victim. That's real horror. Yeah. Like, that's
why it makes the invasion of the body snatchers. That's what we're talking about, this grey area that we're trying to explore. And the third film doesn't belong in it. It just happens to be the end of our trilogy, so we have to talk about it.
Yeah, and like, that's the problem with part 3, that I didn't try to recapture the tones from part 1 or 2. Like, even though, to me, when I look at the three of them so closely together, it feels more like a sequel to the first one does to the second one. But it doesn't recapture the same tone because it's too bright, it's too like illuminated. Like nearly everything's like in an office building or some shit, and like it's like, oh, we're vampires, we're gonna hang out in office buildings that are known for having massive windows. Like, you know what I mean? Like the one place that's least conducive to vampire activity should be like an office building, like. You know what I mean?
We don't have walls. We just have windows.
Yeah, like if you look at Damaskinos' lair in Blade 2, the whole thing has got artificial light.
Yes.
It's all enclosed. Where does he hang out? Subterranean.
Yeah.
Like the penthouse, if you want to call it that, has like a big massive shutter that blocks out the entire front of the building. Like, you know what I mean? It's like everything is catered
because
to
the
be
sun
a vampire.
Exactly. That's when you look back at it, the third literally has nothing going for it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And that's the major problem. Like, and like as we say oftentimes with superhero movies, if you got a weak villain, you got a weak story. And what part 1 and part 2 had was incredibly strong villains in the shape of Deacon Frost and Jared Nomak. And even though part 3 had so many frailties, the major problem with it, in comparison to the first two, is except for tone, is that his villain was weak as fuck. And like the Blade trilogy, one thing it always had was strong villains, so you had strong movies. And because Blade Trinity had such a weak ass storytelling structure, not only that, and the tone was like so off kilter compared to the first two, its villain was weak ass. It wasn't fleshed out. And when you have a Deacon Frost who had, as you said, he came first, so he was able to impact Blade's origins. He created him. He turned his mother. And then you have Jared Nomak, who was this next strain of vampire, had all these links to the vampire royalty as in Damaskinos and Nisa and all this. And there's also a layered and compact and beautifully told both films in completely different ways. In part 3, it's just one big long music video, one big long Abercrombie ad, one big long ass shot of Jessica Biel, one big long fucking cheesy joke of Ryan Reynolds. And all of that time could have been better spent fleshing out Dominic Purcell's Drake.
Agreed, yeah.
And that's why Blade Trinity fails, where Blade 1 and Blade 2 succeeded. We get the fuck out here, motherfucker.
Fuck out here, yeah.
All right, so motherfuckers, that was the Blade trilogy. I hope you stayed with us to the end. That was Invasion of Darksiders. Invasion of Darkseid. Invasion of Darksiders.
I didn't hear.
That was Invasion of Darkseid. I'm your host, Vince Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
And we got Carmack in the back. And we'll see you next time with Halloween, I think, is coming up next. So see you next time, motherfuckers. Peace.
Peace.